24 marathons in 24 countries in 2 months. That was my challenge. During the challenge, I went through some crazy physical and mental transformations that I will reveal in this video. I lost 3 kilos of muscle, mostly from my upper body. My resting heart rate decreased from 42 to 38 beats per minute, and I went from 5 energy and caffeine bars and gels to only 1 per marathon. My stamina and mental endurance skyrocketed, making my marathons almost effortless and 100% sustainable towards the end of the project. And believe it or not, I could have easily continued running 3 marathons per week for a foreseeable future. What's up everyone, I'm Rafa and I'm a pure amateur runner. I have never received any kind of running training from anyone during my life, and in fact, I have never actually attempted an official marathon before this challenge. I started running about 5 years ago, just before the COVID pandemic, and learned everything myself through trial and error.
Kilometer 65. 65 means every step that I'm making is the furthest I've ever ran.
So when I announced to my family and friends that I was planning to run 24 marathons in 2 months, it was no surprise that people around me had doubts and thought I was crazy, going to get badly injured or burn out.
Why are you the way that you are?
But of course, I wanted to prove them wrong, so I trained hard, and after a few disastrous first marathons, where I got hypothermia and running injuries, I made it to the finish line in a much better shape than when I started. And stick around, because at the end of this video, I'll share my 3 main takeaways from this monumental challenge, and how you too can conquer a similar feat. Let's get into it. So to see what improvements I've made, it's necessary to set the baseline first. When I started the challenge, I clocked in at around 73 kilos, running between 110 and 150 kilometers weekly, almost all of which in a zone 2 effort, and heading to the gym 5 times a week for about an hour. With a keen eye on injury prevention, my gym routine revolved around mobility, strength, and upper body compound movements like pull-ups, push-ups, and dips. Additionally, I did 4 mobility or yoga sessions per week and tried to do as much foam rolling as possible to recover from these workouts. My maximum heart rate in the end of my training was just below 190 beats per minute according to a field test I did, and I ran a 5 minute per kilometer pace at around 140 beats per minute, which I considered to be my maximum aerobic heart rate. Nutrition. It's clear I was going to lose a lot of muscle during the challenge, so the idea was to bulk up before the project. All right. And even though I ran 140 kilometers weekly on average, I managed to keep up my weight by eating about 5 meals a day, which turns out to be much harder than I expected. Keeping a calorie surplus during training was actually one of the biggest difficulties I encountered during my training, and to make it as easy as possible, I followed a seafood diet. When I saw food, I ate it. If you're interested in my training build-up for the project and all the strategies I used to prepare, you can check out this video right here. Physical endurance. It's been proven many times that your body and mind are inherently connected to one another. If you're stressed out in your head, you'll have a slower recovery and worse performance. So it was not a big surprise to me that all the stress I accumulated during the last phase of my training plan led to a very difficult first week of running marathons. The first marathon I ran in France was a complete disaster. I managed to get hypothermia at kilometer 25, my heart rate was all over the place, and it was just a very difficult, cold, inconsistent and eventful first run.
I almost feel like throwing up, you know.
That has left some open wounds for me and my team.
That's it, man. The first run, we didn't do it without preparation, you know?
Yeah.
Just have a banana and head out.
I won't go into too much detail, but the fact that me and the team had no idea in what conditions the trail were in and had never actually been there before meant we encountered a lot of problems on the go. For example, the van that was supposed to be my mobile aid station was not able to follow me because of a blocked road. And because we completely screwed up my nutrition and hydration on the first run, and the trails were overgrown and in super cold conditions,
This trail is getting a bit sketchy.
it was a perfect storm, which ultimately led to my body getting very cold and getting hypothermia.
Is this a trail?
I made a video about the experience here, and you can find all the links in the video description down below. Obviously, with only 1 day of recovery and 1,000 kilometers of driving until the next marathon destination in Italy, the runs in Italy, Greece and Bulgaria were no walks in the park. We often broke down the run into 2 half marathons to make it more digestible, with a break in between, as I struggled with runner's knee pain, bad pacing and inconsistent nutrition.
Didn't eat anything for lunch.
Living and running out of the van took quite a while to get used to. I reached the lowest point of the project in Czech Republic, where I was in real acute pain for about 20 kilometers. My right knee hurt really bad with each step, and I could really feel the accumulation of fatigue in my legs. At that point, I was really in a bad state mentally and physically, and thinking about whether or not I was able to finish the challenge in time.
If I want to finish this project running, not walking, I need to take my knee more seriously.
Luckily for me, Enzo and Marcel were there for me in those difficult times, and we made it through those struggles together.
Really like your mom on this trip, huh?
More, baby. I want some more.
Change of plans. After Czech Republic, we regrouped and decided to change our strategy and run around lakes. Lakes provided 4 main advantages to our mission. 1, I could not get lost.
I'm not really sure where I'm going, to be honest.
And didn't have to constantly check my map for directions. 2, it was usually more flat and the trails were often in better conditions because other people would use the trail around the lake all year round. 3, during the run, I knew exactly when and where I would have an aid station to refuel and rehydrate. The aid station is already set up. We're gonna put the table there. And finally, it was much easier for Enzo and Marcel to follow me and film the run. One thing I forgot to mention is that it allowed me, Enzo and Marcel to wash ourselves, which was very well needed oftentimes. And for me to take an ice bath after the run for recovery. The lakes were often super cold and this works wonders for recovery.
Recovery starts now.
Next level. So things started looking much better after Czech Republic. The team got into the right rhythm. So this positive energy was reflecting within me during the runs. Physically, I started feeling much stronger and could control my pace, running form and power a lot better. With more confidence in my ability to run and finish the challenge, the fun came back.
This is how we do it! This is how we do it, baby!
My sleep cycle started to be more consistent.
8 hours
And 30 minutes.
8 hours and 30 minutes. Look at
Sun
that.
is shining.
Even though I lost a lot of muscle mass during the project, I definitely felt the fittest I'd ever been towards the end of this project. I could run faster without getting out of breath, and I was able to enjoy running even more as a result. My feet and calves felt super strong and I was more confident in every step, even if the terrain was rocky or uneven. Mental toughness. Everything my body went through was a reflection of what was going on in my mind. As I'm sure you can relate to, if you're feeling good on a run or in any other activity for that matter, you're usually also doing well physically and vice versa. So a great realization I made in Czech Republic was simply to relax my mind and let go in order to feel better physically.
I'm sitting here for 5 minutes already. Soaked in the sun, soaked in the silence. I thought gratefully about a few things that I'm thankful for, and that gives me energy for the last 20k, is it? 18k?
Being more relaxed about the marathons and the challenge in general means I could also soak in the adventure even more and be grateful for the incredible experience that we were living. But of course, it wasn't always easy to keep going, and mentally I used mainly 3 strategies to keep on going when it was getting tough and needed some additional motivation. Make it about them. So one of the tactics I used was to think of other people who were doubting me and told me I couldn't do it. This was like throwing petrol on fire.
Look what I have created!
When I thought of these people who didn't believe in me, I often started running faster and became ultra focused on the run. Now, of course, there was also a lot of people who did believe in me and supported me in an amazing way. Thinking of the people who love and believe in me, for me meant I had to finish the challenge no matter what. I didn't have a choice. Break it down. Another tactic I used was just to break down the marathon into very digestible, smaller steps. So instead of thinking, oh, I need to run 42 kilometers now and my legs are already hurting, I was just thinking about the 5 next K and told myself that if I needed a break or if I wanted to walk after these 5K, I could. And just thinking about these little steps made it much more manageable for me on the run. It allowed me to be more in the now and just be present. Often I was just counting my steps in my head for hours, just with 1s and 2s, or was just singing like 3 verses of a song over and over again in my head. And before you know it, you take a look at your watch and you're kilometer 35 with only 7 kilometers to go. And from that point on, it's easy.
Kilometer 39, meaning that I have 1 more loop around this lake before I can go to the van. You see that smile? That's a genuine smile.
Cookie jar. Lastly, a mental tactic that I used was something called the cookie jar from David Goggins. When it gets tough, you can open your cookie jar and look at all the difficult challenges that you already overcame in your life. And this will remind you what kind of a badass you actually are.
We've got a badass over here.
And the fact that my first marathons were so difficult with getting hypothermia, an injury, etc., I could simply think of those difficult first runs and it would put my current pain into perspective and make it manageable. It's truly amazing how your mind can help you push through the bad times if you have the right mindset. Muscle development. My body certainly adapted to running long distances. It obviously helps to be lighter rather than heavy when you run for hours. And because I wasn't doing any strength training for my upper body, it's no surprise that I lost about 3.5 kilos during the project. However, the first difference I could notice during the project was losing some body fat. So even though I wasn't necessarily very muscular, I was looking quite shredded, athletic and lean. My legs did get a lot stronger, and especially my feet and calves. I noticed that my balance and stability improved and my footing was more secure during the trail runs. With Enzo, who was part of the team and happens to be a physiotherapist, we did mainly 2 types of strength exercises: isometric work and unilateral strength training. Isometric strength training. Isometric exercises really help with managing pain. You want to hold a position under tension for an extended period of time. So for example, if you have knee pain, holding a position where the muscles around your knee are under tension for like 30 seconds, you repeat that 4 times, really helps reduce pain. We did chair holds, glute bridges and split squats. Unilateral training. In addition to isometric work, Enzo and I focus on unilateral strength training, which is great for runners generally, but also helps with managing pain. The 5 main exercises we performed were single leg Romanian deadlifts, pistol squats, Bulgarian split squats, lateral squats, and single leg glute bridges. It's a bit of a controversial subject, but I really felt like doing some strength work on my recovery days led to a better run the following morning. Of course, we didn't do like full-blown sets with 12 reps and heavy weights. We mostly worked with my body weight and did about 8 repetitions for each set. When you do strength exercises with your body weight, you tend to recover much quicker than if you use weights. Recovery techniques. My recovery got also a lot better and faster during these 2 months and was arguably the most important reason for our success. 3 pillars of recovery. When you think of running recovery in a fundamental way, you basically have some damaged tissues, muscles, fibers, tendons and cartilage that need nutrients and rest to recover from the damage and get stronger. So blood flow is very important because this is what brings the nutrients from the food you eat to your tissues. So the 3 pillars of recovery that we focused on were sleep, real food, and blood flow. My recovery protocol. So after the disastrous first week, we developed a recovery protocol with Enzo and tried to keep it as consistent as possible. The protocol involved a pre- and post-run routine, a sleep schedule, nutrition plan, and recovery day schedule. So after the run, the number 1 thing we did was, of course, rehydrating with water and electrolytes and taking a shower.
It's cold or what?
Woo! I used the MaxiNutrition hydration tabs, which are not only super effective and free of any additives you want to avoid, but also just taste amazing. Number 2 was food. It's really important to get the right food in after a run, as these are the building blocks for your damaged tissues in your body. So you want carbs to restore glycogen, protein for muscle recovery, and veggies to get additional vitamins, fibers, and healthy fats.
Tell me the wonderful breakfast I've prepared to you.
Well, some good coffee, a banana, MaxiNutrition bar, and some good fats, healthy fats. Some avocado with some lemon and some salt. Salt is always one of the most important before the run, for me, because otherwise I get cramps.
Yeah, because you're a sweaty guy.
Because I'm a high performance athlete. I sweat. Sweat, sweat, sweat.
Sweat, baby. Sweat.
Before bedtime, Enzo either gave me a quick draining massage or I used the Reboots recovery pants, which ultimately accomplishes the same purpose: clear lactate out of my legs. Another thing you can do to accomplish the same thing is to rest with elevated legs for about 20 minutes. After that, obviously, the holy grail of recovery, sleep. It's undoubtedly the most important thing, and it happens to be free and available to everyone. We tried to keep a consistent sleep schedule where I would go to bed at around 10 p.m. and get a solid 8 hours minimum of sleep in. On the recovery days, we tried to get some mobility sessions in as early as possible. I usually started the day with some omega-3 oils, as this helps lubricate the joints. The goal of the mobility sessions were obviously to do some mobility work, but also just to get going and improve blood flow. As we were sitting quite a lot due to the extended travel times, it was very important for us to get moving as much as possible. So if it was raining outside, we did a little session inside a petrol station or outside whenever possible. I always did the same 15-minute recovery flow, which is a combination of dynamic yoga and mobility for runners, and I will also link it in the video description down below, so check it out. Recovery development. I think the best way to measure your recovery is simply to determine how you feel in the mornings after the runs. And believe me, the first mornings of the challenge were tough. I felt a lot of stiffness in my body overall during the first weeks. When I compare it to the last week of the project, it's really night and day.
But rainy, but it could be worse.
I remember waking up after the 23rd marathon in Luxembourg and feeling no pain at all, and even with a lot of energy. So obviously, this is a very positive sign that my recovery improved and was much more efficient than in the beginning. So now it's time for my 3 main takeaways from the biggest challenge of my life. Weak men create hard times. Most of us live a very sedentary lifestyle, sitting at a desk, eating processed foods, and spending a lot of time on screens like zombies. If my body and mind changed so quickly in only 2 months, ask yourself what years of sitting at a desk and staring at screens does to you. So if you want to build a good life for you and your family, you need to create hard times for yourself. No one's gonna do it for you. Get out there and push yourselves past your limits. Go through some struggles, and I promise you, you won't regret it. Mind your layers. In Romania, I ran a trail marathon with 12 local ultra runners. The run had over 2,200 meters of elevation, and the conditions were icy cold.
So cold up there.
So again, I ran with my usual 3, 4, 5 layers of clothing, and they were running in t-shirts. After talking to Alain, who is an elite ultra runner and mountaineer, he explained to me that being cold on a run can actually be very beneficial. If you're cold on a run, you will sweat less, leading you to have less water to carry on the run. Plus, if you run in a single layer, you can keep the dry layers in your pack. So if something does happen, like an injury or you twist an ankle, you will be able to keep warm as you wait for help. Looking back, that's exactly why I got hypothermia on my first run in France. I was wearing like 4 layers of clothing around -4 degrees Celsius. And as a result, I was sweating much more and my clothes got wet. I drank all my water very quickly, and when I had to slow down due to the overgrown trails, it meant I got very cold.
It's getting cold now.
And with no water left and no dry layers to change in, I got hypothermia. If I had met Alain before my run in France, I would have probably ran in less layers, kept the dry layer in my pack, and I would have had to drink less water during that run, and I would have never gotten hypothermia. So that for me was a huge takeaway and can actually be life-saving. No human is limited. Like Eliud Kipchoge says,
No human is limited.
and the experience of running 24 marathons in 24 countries in 2 months taught me that my potential is far greater than I ever imagined. And that was the greatest gift that I got from the experience. Thanks for watching. Stay wild in. Peace.